I want to preface today's rant with the following statement. I realize that a lot of this is nitpicky stuff, and I realize a lot of this isn't probably important to a lot of people, and then I'm probably gonna sound like, what's that character's name? Like Veruca Salt from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Was it Veruca Salt? I don't know. I think it was Veruca Salt. Basically the one that's like, well, Daddy, I want it now. That character. So I'm kind of like prefacing this whole conversation and rant with that statement. So just understand that in the back of my head, I understand that there's something keeping me mentally aware that all of this is a bit ridiculous to complain about. But, having said that, first the news. So, by the way, she's gonna get in the way. You could, you know, deal with it. I mean, who could say no? Who could say no to this face? Who could say no to this face? Yeah. So, here's the news. Paprium, the Sega Genesis game that's coming out, Mega Drive, whatever you want to call it. It's a beat 'em up that's developed by Watermelon Studios or Watermelon Games or whatever you want to call them. They're basically a very like indie homebrew kind of style developer. They really know how to push the limits and the boundaries of the Sega Genesis, and I'm very excited for the game. I've been watching this game back when it was known as like Project Y, like way back in the day, like a couple of years ago. And, you know, they just kind of didn't really do anything with the game. Like, they were working on it, obviously, for several years. But last year, they announced that they were going to release the game. And if I recall correctly, they said that they were going to release it late in the year last year. And, you know, I knew ahead of time Watermelon Games, not really the most reliable developer or publisher. They tend to make it so that their games are really good and people really want them, but they're really, really bad about communication with their fans. And there's lots of delays, which are understandably so. They're making a game basically from scratch with a very small team. So I get that. I get it. I totally understand. So I'm not really complaining about the delays, personally. But I do have an issue with the lack of communication. So, just to catch everybody up to speed, late last year, probably around like, I think it was September-ish, they said that they had a ton of problems with PayPal, where like PayPal basically said, oh, these must be fraudulent charges because they got so much money for this game. Everyone was hyped and stoked for the release. And so the pre-order did probably better than they even thought. And so PayPal apparently flagged their account and shut down their funds. That's what they said. Now, at that point in time, there was, I guess a couple months after that, or like a month or two after that, around September, October, I think, that's right around the time when they let people know. So, kudos for them. They let people know, hey, listen, we expect this game's gonna launch sometime in 2018, most likely Q1, right? Cool. Then we hear nothing. December rolls through, we get an ominous post on their Facebook page, and they would go into individual threads with people complaining, wanting their money back, which I never did understand. I guess I get it, because you'll just use that money towards something else that's coming along the pipeline, but at the same time, it's like, I'd rather just wait for the game to be done and then just give me my game. So, Paprium is scheduled, supposedly, to release, they said, February to March at the latest, right? So, with that mindset, you would think, okay, they've probably been working on, like, the development for quite some time. They've got the finished game. Game itself is finished. They know all the, like, technical aspects. Now, again, I've never developed a game. I've never published a game. So, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, publishers, developers, but in my mindset, if you've got a working, complete game, you've tested the crap out of it, you know that the game works, you've played the game through and through, you've done quality control, all that good stuff, you know that the finished product that's going to come out is going to be finalized, right? So, at one point or another, they said that I read a comment saying that they had 50 different companies manufacturing this game, which I don't really understand. Maybe they got 50 different like companies that are working on the motherboard and the chips and the design and all that. I don't know. No clue. I had always assumed that you hire 1 or 2 studios or companies tops to make that sort of thing happen. But again, I don't know. So, moving forward, no answers. February, March, people are, you know, and keep in mind that supposedly Watermelon Games is like, you could ask for a refund at any time. But the game is coming out in February, March. So why would you tell everyone that the game's releasing in February, March if you're also telling people they can ask for a refund? Supposedly they said they were going to reopen pre-orders up. I don't know. So end of March rolls around. Still no game. I even messaged them. I was like, hey, what's the deal? You guys said March, latest. What's going on? Now they're claiming that there's some sort of issue with the chips and that the chips aren't going to work, and now they have to scrap whatever it is that they're doing, and now the game is delayed until they're saying September. Now, again, it's one of those things that I look at it and I'm like, okay, like I feel like you should have known that a long time ago and told people as soon as possible. And that's kind of my big issue here is communication. Communication is key when it comes to your customers. And we are their customers, but at the same time, we're also kind of funding this thing. And that, you know, not to get too sidetracked, but that is going to lead me into a totally different topic, which I wanted to talk about, which is Kickstarter in these indie developed games that are coming out. Now, I'm excited for a bunch of games that are coming out. We've got Battle Princess Madeline, which I did a Kickstarter for. Recently, Fear Effects Sedna came out, which I was really excited for. Bloodstained is still coming, which is going to be awesome. And then there's like some indie stuff that's coming out through like Castlemania Games, which is really cool. They've got the Holy Diver and the R-Type 3 and Super R-Type like combo cart. Jalico and Data East have come out with these combo cards that are really cool. So it's like, it's never been a better time to get into retro games to be able to save money. Now, when I say that, I mean that if you're coming into it as a brand new fan, not like a classic fan or somebody who's been collecting retro for a long time, you know, that's you're gonna look at a lot of that stuff and be like, meh, you know. I ordered the Holy Diver game just because I really, really wanted that game, and so I ordered it. I thought that was awesome, and you know, I was really excited for it. And now they're saying supposedly that the game's going to ship sometime in April, and that's really cool. So I'm really excited to get that in my hands. But let's move over to Kickstarter. Okay, we've kind of addressed the indie homebrew kind of like, you know, these smaller companies like Castlemania Games and Retrobit and those types of companies that are kind of like 1, 2, 3 man shows, sort of thing. You know, very like small staffed. Now let's move into Kickstarter. Regarding Kickstarter, I've changed my mind and my opinion on Kickstarter. When Kickstarter came out, meaning like when people started doing like Kickstarter stuff with games, I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, even if I didn't subscribe to get the game or like, you know, donate to get the game, to fund the game, I still thought it was really impressive that pretty much anybody could make any game they wanted as long as they had a vision and they could clearly articulate that to their customers, you know, the potential people that are going to invest in their game. So I've had a couple games that came out through Kickstarter that I've, you know, pretty much funded. Not myself alone, but I helped contribute to funding these games. And, you know, regardless of what could be said about the games themselves, we're not even going to get into Mighty Number 9 because that's just, you know, just a nightmare of bad PR. But the core message that I want to kind of get across to you guys is that my perception of what it means to be a backer has changed significantly since I started funding stuff or helping fund stuff on Kickstarter. For example, Shantae, HalfGenie Hero. Now, I did a review on this game. I was stoked. I'm a huge, huge Shantae fan. And I helped fund this game, what was it, like 5 years ago when they announced it. And I even made a video like helping, trying to get the word out about it. This was way back when. And that was when I was living in my apartment. And I didn't really have that much money to throw around, but I spent quite a significant amount of money to get all these awesome goodies that they were gonna include, along with all this exclusive content that was supposed to be for backers only. And some of the stuff that I'm talking about is pretty much all the downloadable content. Not all of it, but for the most part, most of it. Talking about like the exclusive costumes, the costume changes, the extra levels, like the extra added bits of story that were added in, the different roles, like the Shantae Friends kind of chapter where you could play as like Roddy Tops and Bolo and Sky, the Risky Boots extra DLC. So all of that stuff was supposed to, for the most part, remain, from what I understand, exclusive to backers. Some of it, I think, was released, meaning like the big chunks of downloadable content, which is fine, whatever. But like some of the extra exclusive stuff that they were like, no, nobody else is going to be able to get that, like the extra costumes for like the extra costumes for Shantae where she could turn into like a Tinkerbat. I think that was supposed to be exclusive to the Kickstarter, along with Risky Boots, the extra costume where it would revert to like the retro colors. A lot of that stuff. Now, supposedly, all that stuff's being released in an ultimate version of the game. Which, first off, there was no physical version of the game offered to us in the first place. And we had to go out and buy, if you wanted the physical copy of the game, you had to buy it. Which, alright, that wasn't part of the Kickstarter deal, whatever. But that physical game came with a soundtrack. Now, I was supposed to get a soundtrack with the game physically. And it was supposed to be having like an exclusive Kickstarter track, which, whatever, that'll end up online in 2 seconds as soon as it gets released. And on top of that, there's supposed to be like all this awesome physical stuff that you could possibly get depending on how much money you spent. Like a physical art book, a flip book, a poster, like a 3D poster, a coin, like a gold coin, like all this crazy stuff. None of it has released. Like, none. Some of the, like the game stuff released, meaning like the in-game stuff, none of the physical content has released yet. Now, people have been bugging them for quite some time about this stuff, assuming that, this stuff was supposed to originally launch back in like, I think they said 2014, and that was 4 years ago. So the Kickstarter, if I recall, started in 2013. The game was supposed to release in 2014. They were working on other stuff. I get it, I understand. I don't really care if a game gets delayed, personally. It is what it is. As long as the finished product is a solid game, I'm fine with that. So I was very understanding of all the delays. But the fact that they didn't start the physical rewards until after the initial game was released, that's sad. I mean, they should have had somebody on that from the beginning. That content should have come out long before. This game, I feel like they've just been like coming up with stuff as they've been going along and not like working on the finished game. It's been 4 years since the initial Kickstarter, or actually 5 years technically, and we have the game, we have most of the DLC, but now here they're announcing a limited edition that they've partnered up with Xseed Games, which is beyond the initial edition that came out physically. So you've got the core game that you could get digitally with all the DLC and extra stuff as a backer, which is fine. And supposedly that backer extra content was limited, meaning that after a certain point of time, it was going to be released to the public eventually. Now they're claiming that backers voted on that. I don't ever recall voting on anything like that. And if I did, I would have absolutely said that backer stuff should stay for the backers. I don't know if they put that out in the open to everybody, but I should have the right as a backer to choose whether or not that's the case. And if even one person says that no, that's not cool. Like, I helped fund this game and you're gonna just toss all this stuff to everybody that is coming in late to the party. I don't know, that's kind of really crappy, in my opinion, personally. They did come out and say that they were gonna give every backer the Ultimate Edition for free. Okay, alright, that's kind of cool. But they're only giving it to you for Steam. Now, I'm not a Steam guy, so what about me? I'm screwed? I have to go buy the Ultimate Edition? No, no thanks. I'll pass. Now, the Ultimate Edition comes with an art book and a CD. So, where's my art book? Where's my CD? That's kind of the way that I'm looking at it, is you should be taking care of your backers first because they helped fund the game in the first place. So if you're not taking care of your backers first, what are you doing? So that's kind of where I'm coming from in regards to this. The worst, though, is that there's an exclusive costume that's coming. It's like Bikini Shantae or something like that. It's like a blue bikini instead of a red bikini or something. I don't know. I'm not going to sweat the details, but what was kind of frustrating is that's going to be an Ultimate Edition exclusive. So now people who could just walk into any store, pre-order the game for $5 or whatever it is, pre-order it on Amazon, get the game shipped to them. Now they get exclusive stuff that I don't have access to as a backer? How is that fair? So that's my beef. That's my biggest beef right now with Way Forward and Shantae and the whole HalfGenie hero thing. Now, does that mean I'm going to stop supporting Way Forward? No. Does that mean I'm going to stop buying Shantae games? No. But what it does do is in the back of my head it tells me that Way Forward cares more about making money than their backers. That's what that tells me. Now, again, I get it. They're a business. They have to make money. Totally get that. But what I do have a problem with is when you advertise something as exclusive, it should remain as exclusive. Alright, now let's move on to a totally different Kickstarter. Fear Effect Sedna recently came out. Now, I bought the game, I paid for it I did the whole, Kickstarter thing. And I was supposed to I did the costume thing where you're supposed to get a, downloadable link or whatever, you're supposed to get costumes. So, I got the game late, by the way. I got it like a day or two after everybody else could just walk online and just boop, 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 done, download, right? So I don't get the game, but everybody else does. Now, it wasn't just me that had this problem. Everybody had this issue. So everybody was saying, hey, I haven't gotten my codes yet. And they were saying that, well, it takes about 24 hours, which it did. It took 24 hours for them to get me the code. So I get it, I understand it, but backers should have had the code, in my opinion, long before any Joe Schmo could just sign online and download it. That's just my opinion. Now, as far as the time limit goes, 24 hours is, I think, fair enough that, we should be able to get access to the game. But the worst thing is that the costume downloadable content is a code. So anybody could get it. If you look online, I'm sure you'll find it. If you want the costumes, you enter in the code and you get it. I paid extra for that. Anybody could get that. So, unfortunately, the mindset of that is that nobody's going to give out the code. And that everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, no, nope, don't know what you're talking about. But come on, everyone online is going to be like, oh wait, the costumes aren't DLC. They're actually if you want costumes, I paid extra for that. And I just think it's really scummy for them to do that. You don't do that. You include it as a downloadable link. So again, Kickstarter, I'm still holding out high hopes for Bloodstained because I really feel like they've got their heads, kind of straightened down right. Yes, there's been delays, but I don't feel that it's the same sort of situation right now. I mean, I have friends that backed, what's that game that came out? Ukulele. And they got their stuff within, I think, a week. And, a week's still pretty good, but Shantae, the game's been out for a year now. What's going on? So, there's a lot of games that are coming out by these developers, and they're pairing up with these publishers to create a physical edition some companies are doing it right, like Battle Princess Madeline. They teamed with Limited Run Games, and they're coming out with a physical version right then and there, which is really cool. So when the game releases, hopefully the game will be shipped out, the physical version. I'll get it and I'll be able to play it, and hopefully there won't be too much of a lapse. But you know, this whole thing with Kickstarter, I'm kind of done. I think after these next few, I think I have Battle Princess Madeline, and I think that's it. There was a Kickstarter that came out for 40 Winks recently, and you know, they said, oh well, yeah, this game's gonna come out and you can get it for $10 off or whatever you could if you buy it now. But then they later on said, oh, by the way, we're gonna release this game on our website so anybody could buy it, and that was through Pico Interactive. So it's kind of like, what's the point of Kickstarter for those sort of companies? These companies that are releasing stuff and there's no advantages to doing Kickstarter other than securing the fact that you want this game to come out. But like for these multi-million-dollar games, or you know, several $100,000 games that have blown past their mark on Kickstarter, I'm not gonna buy those anymore. There's no point. Why? What would I do? What is the point? You know, I funded Fear Effects Sedna because I didn't think the game would come out if I didn't. And I think, you know, maybe that's my fault as a consumer. And maybe I need to do a better job of realizing, you know, what is a good value and what is not a good value. But I don't know. I'm very curious to see what everyone else thinks about this, because I obviously have a lot of opinions on it. And again, I realize that those opinions may not be, I don't know. They may be too selfish. I don't know. But I'm very curious to know what people think about this. Have you done any Kickstarters? What are your thoughts and opinions on Kickstarter? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why? I want to know. So leave a comment down below on your thoughts on this topic. And that's it, guys. That's all I got. So again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more on the way.